The grand binding ceremony of Arenhal Kingdom happens once every 4 years. Every apprentice in the Royal Synthesis Corps lines up before the binding stone, presses both palms flat, and waits for the glow. Gold means elemental mastery. Silver means mid-rank. Even a flicker of bronze means a posting. The Corps needs forgers, it always needs forgers, and so even a weak result keeps you in. Darren Voss is 22 years old. He has trained for 6 years. He steps up to the stone, presses his palms flat, and the stone does absolutely nothing. The hall goes quiet first. Then Commander Orvin Castle reads the verdict from the record crystal: Void Forger, Null Synthesis, No elemental response detected. The silence breaks, and the laughter fills it. His rival Eden Holt, silver ranked, already eyeing Darren's junior artificer position, laughs the loudest. Castle doesn't even look up from the crystal. He simply says, in the flat voice of a man filing paperwork, strip the badge. Process the exile. By noon, Darren's apprentice pin sits on Castle's desk. By 2 in the afternoon, his betrothed, Liz Vale, daughter of Count Vale, arranged match, 3 years of letters, sends a courier to his dormitory with a single folded note. The note says the engagement is dissolved. The courier is already gone before Darren finishes reading it. By sundown, they march him to the Ashen Gate, a one-way portal on the eastern edge of the capital, used for criminals, exiles, and dead weight. A soldier presses 3 days of rations into his arms. Castle stands at the gate's edge and gives the standard exile address: the dust shelf is a continent of dead soil, poisoned veins, and zero mana current. No one has built anything there in recorded history. Make do. The gate opens. Darren steps through. The gate closes behind him. He stands on gray stone under a white sky. The air tastes of chalk. In every direction, cracked earth, dead rock formations, and the low hiss of a wind that carries grit. 3 days of rations. No tools. No mana stone. No map. He sits on a boulder, eats a third of a ration bar, and stares at the ground. Then he picks up a piece of dead dust shelf rock, gray, porous, practically crumbling, and holds it in both hands. Something moves in his palms. Not mana. Something older, quieter, a pressure that comes from his bones outward. The rock in his hands goes still, the way things go still right before they change. And then, slowly, the porous gray crumble hardens. Not into the same rock. Into something dense and black, with a faint metallic sheen, edges clean as cut glass. Absolute Forge, unlocked. Material rewrite, complete. Substrate, dust shelf basalt. Output, Voss iron, grade unclassified. Darren stares at the black slab in his hands for a long time. Then he starts building. Day 3, he has a shelter, crude walls of rewritten basalt, wind-sealed, dry inside. The ration bars are gone. He is not hungry, because on the second day he found a deposit of dust shelf chalk clay, worthless, according to every mining survey, and rewrote it into a slow-yield grain substrate. It doesn't taste good. But it multiplies. He eats. Week 1, he finds the water. Not a vein, Arenhal's surveys were right that the dust shelf has no water veins. What it has is humidity trapped in the stone formations, locked in a crystalline lattice that no standard synthesis can break open. Darren presses his palms to the rock face, rewrites the lattice structure, and water pours out of solid stone for 6 hours straight. He builds a catch basin from rewritten slate. He has water now, indefinitely. Month 1, the first forge tower goes up. 12 meters of rewritten basalt, dense enough to stop a siege ram, with a forge chamber at the top where Darren works through the night. The dust shelf's ore, poisoned, the survey said, contaminated with void particulate that makes it useless for any elemental synthesis, turns out to be, under Absolute Forge, the purest raw material he has ever touched. Void particulate isn't a contaminant. It's a blank canvas. He rewrites it into something he hasn't seen before, an alloy with no elemental signature, lighter than standard iron, harder than Arenhal's top-grade S-rank ceremonial steel. He names it Voss Steel. He doesn't tell anyone. There is no one to tell. Month 3, he starts on the walls. Not because he expects anyone, but because the dust shelf's wind season is coming, and a city is simply a shelter at scale. He works methodically, perimeter foundation first, then gate towers, then the interior grid. Every block is rewritten dust shelf stone. The city doesn't look like anything from Arenhal, no elemental glow, no man-infused finish. It looks like it was carved from the continent itself, which it was, which means it belongs here in a way that nothing the core ever built belongs anywhere. By month 6, he has a name for the city, Ironmere. By the end of year 1, Ironmere has walls, a forge complex, 4 water towers, a grain quarter, and approximately 0 residents. Darren is aware this is a significant shortcoming for a city. He walks the empty streets at night and decides to fix it. The solution is the resonance cores. Every kingdom in the known world runs its warships, its long-range transports, and its siege engines on resonance cores, man-infused crystal drives the size of a head, manufactured exclusively by the top 3 elemental core in Arenhal, Selvorn, and Keth. They wear out. They must be replaced every 2 to 3 years. They are extraordinarily expensive, and the 3 core have maintained a cartel on their production for a century. Darren makes 1 in 4 hours. Then he makes 100. Then he makes 1,000, each one rewritten from dust shelf void crystal, which the surveys listed as no synthesis application, each one with a structural efficiency that makes standard elemental cores look like fire-starting tinder. He loads them into a cargo sled, drags the sled to the northern cliff face, and fires a light signal into the sky. He waits. On the 7th day, a trade schooner from the Selvorn Outer Rim appears on the horizon, following the signal out of curiosity. The captain comes ashore and looks at the cores. Then the captain looks at Ironmere. Then the captain offers to spread word of what he has seen, in exchange for a standing supply contract at 40% under the cartel rate. Darren signs it. By the end of year 2, Ironmere has 4,000 residents, traders, crafters, families who have heard that the dead continent has clean water, stable shelter, and more work than hands. Every one of them is given a plot, a starting materials allotment rewritten from dust shelf stock, and one rule: build something. The city builds itself. Year 3, 40,000 residents. 3 harbor districts. A standing militia armed entirely in Voss steel. No soldier in Arenhal's royal core can put a dent in it. The core's best alloy simply skids off the surface. Supply chains from every major kingdom route through Ironmere because the cores are cheaper, the steel is stronger, and Darren charges fair prices. He doesn't need to gouge anyone. The dust shelf produces without limit, and Absolute Forge has no ceiling. In Arenhal, Commander Orvin Castle's annual armament contract comes up for renewal. The supplier, one of the cartel core, quotes a 40% increase. Castle approves it, because there are no other options. 6 months later, the cartel corp closes its core division. They cannot compete with Ironmere's pricing. Castle goes back to the core directory. The directory has one name left under resonance cores: Ironmere, Dust Shelf. He stares at that entry for a long time. Then he has his secretary draft a purchasing inquiry. The inquiry arrives at Ironmere's trade desk. Darren's supply director flags it, routes it to the top of the stack, and sets it on Darren's desk. Darren reads it. He sets it face down. He goes back to the forge chamber. The inquiry sits unanswered for 30 days. Then Darren sends a reply, not a contract, just a schedule of rates, with a note that all purchasing delegations are welcome to present in person at Ironmere's trade hall, by appointment, with a minimum 2-week queue. Standard terms. He sends the same note to every other kingdom on the inquiry list. There are 14 of them. Eden Holt arrives as Arenhal's lead purchasing delegate in the 3rd week of the queue. He is silver ranked now, promoted after Darren's Exile opened the junior artificer position. He looks older. He carries a leather folio with the Royal Core seal. He doesn't recognize Darren at first. The man managing Ironmere's trade hall reception, calm, precise, dressed in black frontier cut with no badge and no rank marking, doesn't match the shaken 22-year-old who walked through the Ashen Gate with 3 days of rations. Eden introduces himself, states his delegation's purpose, and asks to speak with the trade director. He's busy, Darren says. I'll take the meeting. Eden looks at him for a moment. Then recognition moves across his face, slow, then sudden, like a light coming on in a dark room. Darren opens his ledger. Arenhal delegation. Standard core contract, standing order, multi-year term. These are the rates. He slides the sheet across the table. Take it back to Commander Castle. If the Corps agrees to terms, the countersigned copy goes back through your embassy contact. Q is standard, we'll book your next appointment for 3 weeks out if you need a second meeting. He doesn't wait for Eden to say anything. He moves to the next delegation on the schedule and introduces himself. Eden leaves with the rate sheet. He signs it that afternoon. Commander Castle arrives personally 6 weeks later. He is shown through Ironmere's main gate, given a city tour by a junior aide, escorted to the trade hall, and offered tea. He sits across from Darren Voss and spends the first 30 seconds of the meeting composing himself. Then he says that the Royal Corps would like to establish a permanent supply relationship, and that Arenhal's king wishes to discuss a formal charter. Tell the king the charter terms are in the standard diplomatic packet, Darren says. His office has had a copy for 2 months. Castle nods slowly. He looks around the trade hall, the clean stone, the full city sounds outside, 40,000 people going about their day on a continent he signed a form to exile a junior apprentice into with 3 days of rations. He seems to want to say something about that. He doesn't. Is there anything else? Darren asks. There isn't. Count Vale's estate collapses in the 5th year. The Count had overleveraged on a materials investment that assumed the cartel corps would hold their market share. They didn't. The estate goes into receivership. Liz Vale comes to Ironmere with a small party, carrying letters of introduction through the normal diplomatic channels. She books into the public embassy district. The queue for a private meeting with the trade director is 11 days. She waits the 11 days. Darren is informed she is in the queue. He looks at the schedule, notes her name in the standard column alongside 17 other appointments, and goes back to the forge chamber. When her appointment day arrives, his senior aide takes the meeting in his place. Standard trade inquiry, standard rates, standard follow-up process. The aide reports back, the inquiry was for personal correspondence, not a trade matter. He filed it under embassy discretionary. Darren doesn't open it. King Aldrin of Arenhal arrives at Ironmere's main gate in the 6th year with a royal charter of formal apology, a trade delegation of 30, and a military honor guard that his aides, perhaps not reading the room, thought would be appropriate. Ironmere's gate watch, armed in Voss steel, looks at the honor guard and looks at their commander with an expression that asks, politely, if the honor guard would like to wait outside the walls. They wait outside the walls. Aldrin walks through the gate with 6 aides and no armor. He is escorted to the trade hall. He sits across from Darren Voss and reads the royal charter aloud, a formal reversal of the exile decree, a restoration of all synthesis corps rankings, an offer of the highest royal artificer commission in the kingdom. Darren listens to the whole thing. Then he picks up his pen and signs the trade charter his aide had prepared, core supply, Voss steel, standing order, 20-year term, fair market rates. He slides it across the table. The trade charter handles everything the kingdom needs, he says. The other document, keep it. Frame it, if you like. Aldrin looks at the trade charter. He looks at Darren. He signs the trade charter. Outside, the honor guard is still waiting. Ironmere's harbor bells ring at the 6th hour, the way they ring every evening, the sound carrying across 40,000 rooftops, across the rewritten stone that was dead rock 6 years ago, out over the harbor where 17 nations' ships sit at anchor. Darren walks the eastern wall at dusk, the way he has walked it since the first wall section went up, when it was just him and the gray horizon and 3 days of rations long since gone. The city hums below him. Water towers, forge towers, the grain quarters slow glow, the lights in the harbor. The ashen gate is still one way. It doesn't matter. There is nowhere else worth going.